Or a washed up musical theater guy who's just been jacked their whole life.
Hi, you called?
I wasn't referencing you. I was referencing who you mentioned.
No,
but I
you
guess
pointed directly at the screen, my guy.
So it's because you said it.
Controversial subjects with the facts can be tense, but we are a science here to make things make sense.
Today we are talking about toxic masculinity with your friend Kevin, aka Kevin McDonald, an amazing online fitness coach and teacher. We'll get into it. We're talking about how the definitions around toxic masculinity are actually created, how it affects boys, men, in terms of mental health, what you can do about it, and also specifically with relation to the queer community and body dysmorphia and all these things. So let's jump into it and welcome our guest, Kevin McDonald. Woo!
Cheering all over the nation.
Everyone's losing their mind. For those of people who aren't, we'll take a second before we jump into toxic masculinity to chat about who exactly are you, what you do, how you got into being a coach. Because we kind of found you just through like TikTok. I know you do Twitch and YouTube we watch as well. And we honestly were just like, it's nice to have somebody who's teaching fitness. It feels like well-rounded. I felt like I actually was learning in a way that wasn't so extreme as, you know, it's easy to fall into fitness influencers through algorithms that are just kind of extreme. And so we were like, it'd be great to chat to you. So why don't you give us a little background on who you are and where you got to doing what you do?
Gosh, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Big fan of the pod. Big fan. I am, how did we start? So I guess during the pandemic, I was working at this HIIT gym, high intensity interval training, and it shut down because the owner was paying rent. And at that point, I was just kind of like thrust into a personal training world where I kind of jumped into it before I knew really what was going on, right? I was like, sure, I've got all these clients now who are looking for a space to train. Let's go. And quickly, I realized that everyone was kind of going crazy in a way where it's like, I feel like there was this question of mortality looming over everyone's minds all at once.
True.
And it just really like fascinated me. And immediately I was like, I want to know as much about like how the mind works around fitness as possible. So, as well as just like, you know, studying fitness and personal training, how the body works, I like to focus a lot of my attention on the psychology of what people are doing to themselves when they enter a fitness space. You know, it's like, why are we so obsessed with being skinny? How far in history does that back? Why do people feel more inspired when like people are a little bit mean to them? You know, it's like these little things here and there. I'm like, I'm so curious about that. So that drives a lot of my content, a lot of the things that I study, a lot of the books that I read. But on top of that, I just enjoy making content about like how to properly move your body, how serious it is, how unserious it is, and more importantly, like what it looks like when you're doing something wrong and what it looks like when you're doing right. I think that depiction is very necessary. So, kind of the spiel.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Pandemic times were...
Was the mortality of the people because of COVID or just because everyone's afraid of dying? It was specifically because of COVID?
Well, I think COVID raised a lot of questions. I think in fitness specifically, there's this like immortality kind of mindset. You know, it's like your body is a temple, therefore it lasts forever. It's like, no. You're a spongy human being. And I think a lot of people who didn't really contemplate that way of thinking, or they never really questioned it in their mind, were kind of like hit a brick wall of realization of like, what do you mean I have to stay inside or else I might die? That's not right. And I think just that the semblance of that question scared a lot of people. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people kind of broke their brains in that time, or just shut down in ways that allowed them to kind of go down paths that might not be the most safe for them, you know?
Yeah. And you primarily, like I see you do you like film entire gym workouts, right? Like you'll be on Twitch, hour-long sessions. You clip up a lot of these things onto like TikTok and stuff that are taken from your long form sessions, right? And then I obviously see like content where you're just talking as though it's a short form video. But how did you break into like that element of fitness?
Yeah, what's Twitch? I definitely know what it is, but like explain it.
Twitch is a live streaming platform, so it's just a space where you hit record and you start going, baby. Most people play video games or just like chat with their. I like to work out. And I mean, to be completely frank with you, it started as a very selfish means because I don't have that much inspiration to work out by myself. I'm like really busy. toss, man. Like I have a lot going on, guys. No, I often get distracted because there's just so much in my mind that I'm thinking about that I want to do. And so when I'm just like in a gym for a long period of time, it is nearly impossible for me to stay on task and like to do it. So being on Twitch, pressing record and being live for 2 or so hours, it held me accountable because there's people watching.
Like you have to work out because people are watching.
Yeah,
It's kind of genius.
on the
Okay,
schedule.
now
Nice
I'm going to
idea.
go on Twitch.
You should be painting on Twitch, and I should be making music on
Listen,
Twitch. Like things that you're
the
like,
moral of this
why not
story-
put it out there?
Absolutely.
You'll actually do it,
Everything
and you
you
won't go on
do
your
should
phone.
be made into content. And that is
Exactly.
the moral of this story.
Every part of your life.
Monetize every
Speaking of
hobby.
toxic,
That's beautiful.
yeah, it's a nice segue too.
Put that on my tombstone.
Jumping in a little bit to toxic masculinity, like we had chatted back and forth around like topics that could be relevant for you to come on the pod. What drew you towards this topic? Obviously, all of us are gay, queer. Obviously.
What?
I mean,
Where am I?
what's your like personal relationship to this? And then we can actually dive into the science behind some of it.
Repeat that question for me. I was doing bits.
Why
and
are
not
you
listening.
obsessed with toxic masculinity?
Why I'm obsessed? I think it's I think it's like a really interesting avenue where I think gay people think they're immune. I think a lot of gay people like think they're not misogynist, they're not racist. Like they're gay. They're part of a minority. Therefore, they're not the problem. And I just think that it's something that often gets ignored with a lot of gay people. So I see all these like red flags, and I just think it's interesting to talk about and discuss. I think something that's really prevalent is like bodybuilding, where like gay men think that bodybuilding is like this performance, like straight men bodybuild because they're obsessed with themselves. And it's like, actually, it's not so much it's more of like a perfection kind of vibe. It's like I want to be as like symmetrical, perfect, and create this body that is the statuesque image. And in a way that's very gay, but also it's not. And so I think something that's very toxic that the gay men do are like, oh, you're gay because you are doing X, it's like me. And it's things like that where I find that the Venn diagram of toxicity, straight men have and gay men have, are often very close to different flavors.
Totally. Well, we did like a video a while ago about are gay men more masculine, because some definitions of masculinity are all about the approval of other men. Like when you actually look at the psychology and like the studies of masculinity, it's not about women. It's about men trying to be perceived by other men, which is so interesting because when you think about straight guys at the gym, I notice this a lot too. Like, I'm like, damn, that man is working so hard to be so beautiful. That's so fucking gay.
So gay.
But it's like also so gay because I can tell that it's all about the bros he's around. It's not about necessarily the conquest of a woman. A lot of these people have like long-term committed monogamous relationships. Like so much of the gym, I forget, for straight men is about the approval of other straight men, or about the masculine dominance of being like, I am stronger than that man, which is so interesting because I think that links to gay men who obviously want approval from other men, but I think straight men also are looking for the same thing. And sometimes I think gay guys like forget that we're all there for the same reasons. One's more sexual than the other.
Yeah.
Well, it's such an
I
interesting
think,
fine line because it makes me think about CrossFit, and like I have done so much research into finding out whether it's a cult or not because I want it to be. That's such a funny narrative.
My
if
God,
it's a
I
cult.
literally, my friends go to CrossFit Gym. I call it the cult.
I joined it for a bit,
and I was like, "Oh, you joined the cult."
It's got flavors.
It is a cult.
It's unfortunately
Flavors.
not. It's unfortunately not. I really want it to be, but it's unfortunately not. It's got tendencies. Let's be real. It's real cringe.
Everyone's getting married at their CrossFit Gym. Like they met there, they're married.
Listen,
so it's not.
I'm not
because-
saying they're not crazy for going there. I'm saying it's not a cult. But like that's the thing. It's problematic in many ways. But the idea of like going to a space with your friends, doing something for an hour and then leaving, like that's the healthiest thing I can possibly imagine.
Right.
Yeah, it's
So-
true.
Yeah.
To be honest, I make jokes because I'm envious because they're all like smiling and laughing and have
Oh,
new friends
yeah.
and are like going to cottages and it's like, okay,
They're
this has
touching
only
grass.
been a benefit in your life.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
totally.
And I'm over here
While,
on
like,
my phone,
flipping their body
Feeling
into
good
your
about
face.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm like
Screwed up.
alone at the gym, pissed off.
Yeah, and so it's like when you see
I-
bros together, it's like, well, you can perceive that as toxic, and there's many ways for them to act toxic, but at the same time, it's like they're just friends participating in a hobby, and
Yeah,
can we be
totally.
mad at that?
Together.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
interesting how that
It's
line
true.
is so
Yeah,
thin.
yeah, it's true. It's not maybe not toxic masculinity, but it's masculinity.
And like any kind of cultural term, like obviously it gets overused and used in ways to just sort of, I'm sure, like attack certain people or use it against other people. And so I think to kick this off then, a study that I found that was really interesting last year actually was all about just defining toxic masculinity. It was called the Toxic Masculinity Scale. You know, so in science, researchers are able to actually be like, how do we measure this? Can we actually qualify and quantify if somebody has this so that we can then see, okay, do people who quote unquote have it have different health outcomes, mental health outcomes or whatever. And so it was basically broken down into 4 main categories. So they are, it started with, there's like 30 studies they looked at, started with more categories, but they broke it down into masculine superiority, gender rigidity, emotional restriction, and repressed suffering. And then from those categories, there's 28 scales that they basically ask people, see where they fall on a scale to basically diagnose, like, does this person suffer or have toxic masculinity? And some examples of those scales are simple questions like, if I cry, I am weak. Muscles are an indicator of masculinity, which I thought would be interesting to talk about. Men cheating on their partner is natural. My opinion as a man is more important than a woman's. So there's all these different subcategories to sort of like diagnose. And I thought that was interesting because it definitely is a term
thrown around the
that
term, yeah.
I'm sure is used against situations that are not actually toxic.
Like 4 bros hanging out working
yeah,
out.
exactly. And we're just like, fuck
Smiling.
I did not
Being like, man,
intend-
I love you.
I truly did not intend to come on this podcast and defend straight people. I apologize. That's not the image I want for my brand, and I really regret it, to be honest.
No, we've got lots of lovely straight male listeners, and they're here for it.
And they
they're
get their
super
asses
supportive.
eaten. Another
Yes,
story. But
we
we did a video about ass
shocked.
eating, and we're like, if you're straight and you get your ass eaten, please reach out. And there were hundreds
Never
of men.
more
We were like,
responses
wow.
than
okay.
ever. So
Yeah.
there are lots of non-toxic straight men and lots of toxic gay men. So I don't know where we want to go from here. Like, it might be interesting to even talk about how we see it connected to the gay community, because I think you're right. The world often looks at it as a straight male problem, which of course it is. But
So I have a survey of 489 Australian gay men, and as someone who constantly rips on Australia, I feel like toxic masculinity is rampant in the Australian community. Okay.
community, like not the country.
So it was 489 gay men, and it was asking them about masculine norms as well as internalized homophobia. And they found that men who were more hyper masculine were more likely to suffer from internalized homophobia, which I think is so interesting. And then at the bottom of the study, they said internalized homophobia, other studies have found, have led to eating disorders, steroid use, body dissatisfaction, like sexual discrimination, and poor mental well-being. I think the steroid use and like the eating disorder part of that I thought was interesting. Like, essentially, they're saying people who have toxic masculine traits end up being internalized homophobia. They're gay,
themselves,
which leads to what you're describing, this like steroid use or like insane need to body build.
Well, is it kind of like
which
a
I think is
aesthetic
interesting.
version of like waving your pitchfork the highest so that no one
Yes.
problem?
Totally.
Exactly, which I think is such valid information for gay people to reflect on. Like, And then it actually talks about within the survey, the actual feminine men who experienced way more negative attitudes in general throughout their life, romantic rejection, victimization, harassment from others, but they felt less internalized homophobia and less of a sense of inferiority. So it's like, even though these men, quote unquote, this is a generalization from this study, even though this jacked gay man at the gym is huge, he might feel way more inferior than what these effeminate men are saying, who are dealing with way more harassment in their life.
Oh yeah, I mean that's why I say
just
that like steroids are crap, and the reason I'm never gonna do, because if I am at a point in my mind where I need to be so big, I need steroids, then the problem physical will never the problem,
it's mental.
Exactly.
Oh my God, yeah.
My mind will never be fixed by the physical look of my body. Like if this isn't enough, we've got bigger issues, you know?
Yeah.
Totally.
You know what? That reminds me, totally what that makes me think of when it comes to like gay men and their, or, you know, that like E-man aesthetic. I think it comes from two major like points in culture, or I guess history, where it's like when gay men grow up, they are just, it's safer to look like everybody else. It's safer to be the person who's like not the stereotype. What are you talking about? I'm not effeminate. Look how masculine I look. How could you think I'm effeminate? There's that defense mechanism. Then also I think that AIDS did a crazy number on the way gay men view like health and being healthy, because we have this history where the sick were dying and the sick were and to not look sick, what do? You beef up, you look healthy, you live a healthy lifestyle, you all this stuff. And I think that just like trickles down and creates this wave of consistent thinking and habits.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It would be interesting to have like some kind of historian look at, are there, because sometimes I do look back, and maybe this is like even mostly post AIDS crisis, but like gay men have often had really fit bodies. When you're seeing these kind of like vintage photos back in the day, there is like a very clear association. Maybe it's different today. People are a lot more jacked today, and that's maybe like culturally prevalent beyond just being gay. Like sometimes I think back to when we were in high school and university, being a twink, like I didn't even think about fitness once when I was like in university.
No.
Whereas now I look at young kids and they're all in the gym, they're all jacked, and you're just like, whoa, it's actually crazy to see a 16-year-old be like stronger and bigger than me, who's finally working out.
It's a mind fuck for sure.
Yeah,
it
so
is.
it's beyond
and it's definitely
just like the gay
there's another
community.
cultural touchstone, I think, which is like probably the internet.
Just like the internet. Yeah, like the pervasiveness of only seeing really beautiful, attractive, physically fit bodies, which I'm interested to talk about because as somebody who sort of like teaches on the internet about fitness, and as somebody myself who like in the last handful of years has like really started to prioritize it, it's like transformed my life mentally. I feel better about myself physically, but I always run into this question of like, am I still chasing that validation? Like how much of this
like how do you
is
balance
actually
it?
Because of it makes me feel better versus, oh, I want to look better. I want more people to validate me physically. Like, what's your take on, not only for yourself, but maybe like your audience or people you work with or train with, like how can we tell? And I know this is not like you don't get to decide how we tell, but how do you tell if it's like a toxic trait coming out of yourself versus a genuine desire to be healthy and improve yourself?
It's a fine line, you know, the difference between someone who like loves consistency pattern, Patrick Bateman, or the amount of heads in the freezer, you know, it's like it's really hard to tell sometimes. I think at the end of the day, it depends on like where your motivation comes from. Are you doing it for you, or are you doing it because someone thinks you'll be like, is it to impress someone, or is it because you are motivated yourself? And if you're doing it to impress someone else, I feel like that's always going to be a recipe for kind of stepping out of the box of what you want and just kind of like following the pattern of what other people. I will say, like, I have a lot of muscle strictly because I'm insecure. Like growing up, I was skinnier and tinier, and I grew, this is embarrassing, I'm being very vulnerable in this moment. I grew up in musical theater, And so,
I'm
yeah, there it is. There it is. I deserve it. Okay, it's a past that I don't connect with anymore, and every day I'm doing my best to make up for that wrong.
Oh
God,
my
I still
God.
connect every day. I'm
You're
like,
dragging
"Ooh,
Mitch.
spring awakening on.
I still, unfortunately, blast those show tunes in the car, but only in the car. You'll never see me do it.
Yeah, in private.
Yeah, exactly. No, just like growing up, there was the like, you have to lift the woman, you have to lead as a man. Like all the male roles, ironically, in theater are like straight leading men, and that really that kind of inferred what I wanted to be later.
Yeah.
And
Oh my God, I love how musical theater made
like
you
of all
toxic
things,
masculine.
This is why I don't
That's
talk
the
about
gayest
it
shit
that
I've ever heard.
But it's so true
No,
that like
I'm kidding. Like, it's
if you,
true. It's
if
so
you look
funny.
at even Broadway, it's like the leading men are often
Straight
at the very
guys.
least
It's
either
true.
straight or extremely straight passing,
Yeah.
which I'm sure messes with a lot of
I
gay
always like if I
men's
go to a
heads.
musical, like I'm like, damn, that guy's fine as fuck, like
Yeah.
the lead guy. And I always go on Instagram and it's just like him kissing his like white girlfriend at like the most basic wedding with mason jars, and I'm like, are you
have no
serious? Like,
fucking- You have no idea. We'll go on a little. Okay. First of all, okay. So we've got the one tangent is the musical theater to personal trainer pipeline. There are so many failed musical theater actors who now are personal trainers. Your boy's one of them.
or drag queens.
Exactly. At least drag is like the same thing. It doesn't matter. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then
Oh my God,
also
that's
the
so
amount of boring straight men who clean the fuck up
Yes.
in musical
Yes.
theater is crazy.
Yes.
Men who want to take advantage of a situation, you out there, if you see a school show or like anything like that, bitches will be over you. And gays, if you want friends, just lie about being straight. The women will be over you. No, don't do that. Be
It
yourself,
is crazy,
but
like because I feel bad because it is boring straight men. Like
Hugh Jackman,
every
look at
time
him
I
go.
see that, I click the Instagram. I'm just doing it anecdotally. I'm like this man, and there's nothing behind the eyes, but he is the lead in this show, and every backup dancer is on Grindr.
Yeah.
Like it's so sad because you're just like, that is toxic masculinity within the theater community.
I'm not someone.
It's literally everywhere.
I'm not someone who
That's
often believes
crazy.
like gay roles belong to gay people. It's like this is nuance. I don't know, but when Darren Criss won that Tony and walked on that stage,
Yes,
I said
yes.
that should be a gay man. How dare
Yes,
you?
it's like like gay men should be the lead in every musical. Point blank. Period. There should be DEI
what we
on
deserve.
that. Just like there should just be
That's
like,
what we
yeah, like
deserve.
just let there be a gay guy who can act like a man. Whatever.
I know. I feel like it even goes in. Even when you see like a ballet or something, you're like, how come the lead man is so obviously a straight?
Yeah,
guy?
it's like some like Russian, masculine man.
Fair. Life's not
Okay,
fair,
so
and then he died.
yes, literally, put that on my tombstone. So another part of this study I thought was interesting, which was that people who felt threatened to their masculinity tended to be more homophobic or have internalized homophobia. And then I was thinking about like threats to masculinity as like a concept or like a motivation as something that I think is interesting to think about. And some examples were discovering you make less than another colleague, specifically if it's a woman, which I haven't never really had to deal with, but I'm like thinking about a man's like ego blow to that, which is obviously fucked, but I can imagine men in my life who would
Like have
that would
trouble
give
with
them
that,
a pit
yeah.
in their stomach, which is crazy. Another example was being rejected after making sexual advances is like a blow to your masculinity. And I thought about gay men in regards to that. Like, I think a lot of potential motivation to work out and to get so big is to try to avoid a rejection.
The instant rejection.
Yeah, and I never thought about rejection of sexual advances as a
Totally.
blow to masculinity.
masculinity.
And I was like, that could be another part of gay men who feel more inferior building their bodies to hopefully just never have to deal with the vulnerability of rejection.
Yeah. Oh,
which I
yeah.
thought was so interesting. And then losing a competitive task. I'm like, okay, that's more obvious. But there's a lot of other examples, but I was like, there is something about gay men's in a toxic masculinity within the gay male community, making you unable to be vulnerable and therefore creating this world of perfection where you don't ever have to feel like what some of
Rejection.
these feminine people are feeling, like actual like homophobic slurs or rejection sexually, like all the things that come with quote unquote being a gay man, you're avoiding by trying to be so masculine.
Yeah. I think the difference, I made a video on this because of the Ollie Murs backlash, not backlash, but like controversy internet thing where the British actor took a picture of himself jacked, and before he got jacked, where he was like kind of a little chubby, and the internet went crazy being like, he was more attractive back then, and every man was like, no, your women are wrong. Like it was that whole controversy for
like
a member.
the female gaze versus the male gaze kind of thing.
And the more research I did on it, because it turned out to be like this really fascinating like deep dive into like why men like building and like what that is all about. Lost my train of thought. Hold on, let me get that back.
Wait, so Ollie Murs, like the controversy was that women were actually more attracted to him before he was quote unquote.
There was a tweet,
yeah.
and it was from the personal trainer who was like, look at the gains, look at the progress, and then someone on Twitter took those photos and was like, which is more attractive? There was a hole underneath, and then it also asked like what your gender was below. And women voted for the before picture, and men basically voted for the after picture.
That's that goes back to masculinity being about men.
And someone retweeted that and said, "Why are women lying?" And that kind of like set the entire internet.
Led to
oh my God, men are so gay.
Men are so gay. Why do men want to look at men? That's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm just like, it is so obvious to me now that like every part of bodybuilding is for men's approval, and like the women are off to this
actually gay, but
no, but I'm sorry, like I'm just like, there are obviously women who probably like jacked men, but there's probably so many women who are like, stop, be normal.
I know. I think it's interesting to project your ideas. Like this goes back to the question of like, when you're working out, is it for you or is it for other people?
Oh my God, I'm like, is it?
Trying to like decipher this for myself, because on the one hand, like it feels validating, of course, like, and I feel better about my body than I used to. And I try to like, I don't want to judge my old body, but I like feel good that I'm feeling more fit and looking more fit. But when I look at other people, I don't judge them in the same way. At least I think. Like, of course, like seeing a super jacked guy can be hot. I'm not trying to say like, oh, like a jacked guy is ugly. But there's so many other types of bodies that I also think are hot. And we talk about this a lot, right? Like, I think as long as your perspective on it is rounded, and that I think what happens in the gay community is we can see that so many men only want to be with somebody who's jacked. And there's this kind of like progressive movement towards like, if you're at that fitness, you oftentimes, not always obviously, only want people at that fitness, and that can feel really exclusive and really regressive. That becomes the question of like where you fit in that pyramid, and like if you have a jacked body, are you okay with somebody who doesn't? And if you don't have a jacked body, are you like, I don't know. I guess those are the questions that kind of go through my head to like understand, what am I trying to get more fit
like
for?
Why am I trying to get more fit? That's a really good question.
And the only other thing I would say is we live in a world, going back to like your study of like people who are dating are always presenting on the internet, right? So like it really is a visual first area.
That's
even
so
in a club,
scary.
even in a bar, it's like someone can only see you. And as much as I want to be like, of course, the personality is so much more interesting and instantly can make someone way more attractive or way less attractive to me. You don't know that until you go up to somebody, and it's hard to break that barrier.
I mean, incels have a really disgusting way of talking about like the marketplace of sexuality and the marketplace of attractiveness, with like why is an 8 with a 7, 8 belong with 8s. Like they have a stupid way of thinking of that, but there is like a truth to it, where it's like, hold on, I've done all this to look like X, Y, and Z. Why don't the women I find attractive or interested? And I just think it's interesting how like men will create the hobby of aesthetic, and then women will be like, okay, but what do you do? What do you do? And then men will be like, aesthetic. I do aesthetic. And I don't think that translates. I don't think men, like the hard work that goes along with building muscle just does not translate always. And I think that like, I've worked hard for this, what do you mean you don't appreciate it, is something that like kind of hard to internalize in a way where that kind of breaks men down, right? I've seen gay men too, where it's like,
that's so interesting.
Gay men are the same way. And I think it's also a reason why gay relationships don't last that long often, where it's like that first 6 months and then they realize they don't like each other, because women have the barrier of like, I don't think you're interesting, all you do is have biceps, where men will be like, he has biceps, he's amazing, because that's
He's
what I
so
want now.
interesting.
And then 6 months in, they're like,
Yeah.
wait, you only do
He just
aesthetic?
has
And then
biceps. Yeah.
here we are.
Too aesthetic is so good. I've never heard
That's
like that.
really interesting. Like, because obviously there is like the crisis of men, the crisis of masculinity. Like, that's something that we're talking a lot about right now, like in the like zeitgeist. And I think it's so interesting to think about how, okay, obviously so much of our podcast is about how even science has been co-opted by this like productivity, longevity movement, this idea of like hacking your body to quote unquote, like honestly never die, which is like now like the most toxic masculine thing ever. Like they can't even deal with the vulnerability of death. Okay, but anyway.
Can you imagine though, like wanting to live forever?
I know.
Doesn't this sound
Well, it's
awful?
so-
Like, not to doom or anything,
Yeah.
but like, who wants that?
I know. Well, Mitch famously did want
Mitch.
Well, in a different context, okay, I
Mitch,
just am like,
Mitch.
I'm so keen to know what will happen in the world, but not anymore. Now I'm like, okay, well, it's
Girl,
all
it's gonna
all going to
burn.
shit.
It's
I
gonna
wanna see
burn
a
so
movie
bad.
where we get the perspective of the ghosts who have to live with the miserable people that they're stuck in a house with.
Yeah.
I want to see that movie, because that's my horror movie. I have to watch Brenda do her hair again. Every day.
But it's interesting because I was reading this recent article about like metformin and the longevity movement, and how there are actually a lot of medications that could help the longevity of women, but they're completely understudied, and no one's interested in them, because the only people who are really paying are men. And there's also this hilarious like irony that like women just will live 10 years longer than men without even trying based on biology. But it's like, okay, that is toxic masculinity playing out. I think it's like those people are obviously going to the gym 2 to 3 hours a day, plus doing all this crazy shit. They're mostly like millionaires, so they have the time and money. But there is something about how that becomes so uninteresting to women, potentially even me or a gay man, becomes so selfish. And like I can imagine how hard it would feel at the end of the day when you're like, look what I did all day. And people are like, that's boring. You're uninteresting and unattractive. Because it's like, you're like, wait, but I'm actually doing everything to be what I think is the most attractive.
And then they go on Joe
And so
Rogan
it's like
and he's
a
like,
trap.
men are awesome. And then that's the pipeline. It's like, well, these
Yeah,
guys are
yeah,
telling
you
me
can
I'm
see
cool.
it.
Why are women telling me I'm not cool?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so about the approval of men. Like, I think that's something that like we should even start reiterating more.
And you're right, especially through these like studies and how they contextualize their view of women. It's also like the conquest of women. A lot of it has to do with like how many sexual partners you can get. So if there's this dissonance between like what you believe you're owed based on the amount of work you've put into a body, then it's going to contrast even more harshly with like how many quote unquote women you're able to have sex with, or to have like power over, or to have success over. Yeah, I'll dive into one other study that I looked up. It was just now like taking that and using these frameworks to actually study like what happens to people who have toxic masculinity. This was on over 25,000 young boys between grade 6 and 12, over like 30 meta-analyses or whatever. So basically, high adherence to stereotypical gender roles or norms were more associated with internalized behavior problems and lower social support. The most prominent theme was emotional restriction, which is often like a gender norm for boys to feel like they're supposed to not express themselves. That's highly linked to poor mental health. And then the thing that stood out to me that was interesting in like a positive way of like not all masculine traits are bad was men who like tied themselves to the traits of being ambitious and assertive actually had better mental health and more social support. So I think it's important to remember like this is not about and of course like that's deemed a masculine trait. Of course, like women, female, anyone can have these assertive, ambitious traits, but when men felt like that was a masculine trait and they followed through, they had like more success. And so
that's a good point.
There's a
like,
balance between
not...
figuring out like how do we just like not call everything that could be a masculine trait like bad for men to chase after.
Yeah.
And stoicism, like sometimes I feel like, I mean, Mitch makes jokes like I'm like dead inside. Like I'm not that emotional. And I do sometimes in my life think like it is an advantage. I don't feel emotional pain that often. like
every day I'm like, I feel sad.
Yeah, like I think it's maybe next to you. I'm just like, wow, damn, he's looking out the window and crying again. No, but I just mean like there is like that is a masculine trait that I like haven't come up against so many issues,
Like in a negative way.
like in a negative way. Yeah, like you can have a balanced masculine identity, and I think that's what we would hope for men.
I think it truly comes down to who you're doing it for. If you are holding the door open because you want a woman to say thank you to you, maybe we don't know why we hold doors open. Like, if you want to make someone's life easier by holding the door open for them, then that is a masculine role you are fitting into. That is in no way toxic, because it is making a safe space. It is making a place safer.
A safe spacer.
A safe spacer. That's me. I'm a keyboard warrior and a safe spacer. You get what I mean, of course. It's just if you want to like hold a woman's like shoulder as you walk down the street or in a dark neighborhood, like that's fine, but make sure the woman wants that. Like it comes down to mutual respect,
and it's not about what you get back.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. I think we're so obsessed with of masculinity because that's what it's. We buy our pill to make us stronger so that we can be cool. They have nothing in them. It's a cute little dance that we have to kind of realize we're doing. I did actually, the one study that I did bring was that in 2023, a study found that 89% of dietary supplements did not accurately compare what was actually. And since the FDA does not regulate dietary supplements or any kind of like workout supplement thing, they can't
just
check until it is on the market being sold. So I just like to think about all the times all these bodybuilders are like, I buy my testosterone because it exists and it's real, and everyone's just like, wow, all my problems are solved. Thank you, Jesus. It's just not a thing.
I mean, well, that's even interesting because we live in such a world of supplements and like easy fixes. And then tying back into fitness, it's like interesting because fitness actually can transform your life. I think as somebody who had like a lot of back problems, mental problems, I see it personally where it's like, I know there are people out there who benefit from it, and it's hard to like, of all the things, whether you're taking supplements or, you know, like these micro changes, it's like fitness and eating and sleeping are the ones that are going to have the biggest bang for your buck. And so it goes back to that, like, how do you balance out? I guess it's just the extreme end of things, right? Like,
well, there's that the metaphor, like from that one study when we talked about supplements, is like eating, sleeping, and working out is the cake. It's the actual cake, and then everything else is just the icing.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And it's like those three things like are huge, can have huge impacts.
And
on
if you like
life.
icing more than the cake, you're literally a crazy person. So we all agree on that.
And then you're just huffing supplements.
No, actually,
and, like, go off.
it feeds into what I talk about a lot is the relation to like finances and dieting and like working out of it all. Like, I feel like the way people get into debt and the way people get unhealthy are very similar in that they're like small increment changes that you don't really notice until you're back and you're like, this is too much for me. And so, when you talk about like how it's the little things, I like to relate to kind of like a 401k where it's like small investments every day will build a stronger savings fund than just like hoping that you put a stock in the right thing and really banking on that success. It could work.
Yeah.
You know, the surgeries could work. The pill could work. But what's going to be more effective is like learning about your body, learning about how much you have in the bank, and really focusing on it a little bit every day until you.
It's so funny you bring this up because it's actually, I have been like playing this kind of idea in my mind a lot recently and realizing that is one of the things that sort of like my own fitness journey has taught me because it's so appealing.
What, that it takes...
Yeah, just a reminder that it's like, it's so appealing to see transformation images and videos that people act like it's 3 months. Like now I've been working out for years and I'm like, I can see changes, but it really took years.
Yeah.
If you're not taking steroids, if you don't have a full-time commitment to like being able to make this your job or whatever, it's like a really, really long transformation. And I honestly feel like that's a good lesson that applies everywhere. It's just like little changes. Even now I'm like trying to write more music and stuff and have to remind myself, like, I don't need to like race into finishing an album. It's just like a little every day. Cause I always have this dream of like, I should take a month off and go just like focus and go crazy. But then I have time off and then it's like, it's too overwhelming to do it all at once. So this kind of like theory, or obviously it's real. And I think that is something beautiful that fitness can teach you or remind people, and why it is such a good part of your life, that it's just like little bits every day go a long way if they're for the right reason.
And I think a lot of like men who we're picturing as toxic men in the gym might have that same, they might actually have quite a healthy relationship to it and be like, I've just been doing it for longer.
And now I just have big muscles because I've spent 15 years doing this.
Yeah. Or they were an athlete, or a washed up musical theater guy who's just been jacked their whole life.
Hi. You called?
I wasn't referencing you. I was referencing who you mentioned,
No,
but I
you
guess
pointed directly at the screen, my guy.
So it's because you said it. Oh my God.
The only thing that came up in my
so
mind
rude.
is something you mentioned where it's like, I think that fitness, in the context of like men trying to impress women, it's interesting because it is a very selfish thing in one respect, right? Which is nothing wrong. Like, we should all be focused on ourselves at a certain capacity, but then you realize to be a whole person, like, what are the things you're doing that are also for other people? That's, I think, how you like make sure you are a whole interesting person. It's cool to be into something and obsessed and want to work on your own hobbies or body, but if that's all you have, then when are you like giving that out? Like versus something like, I don't know, art, or I don't know, there's so many other things where yes, it's still about yourself, but you're also like giving that out.
Yeah.
And so I think like, it's just, it's reflecting on what your actual value in the thing you're doing is, and how it can be about more than just yourself, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like I have a hard time like not like generalizing straight men, as I don't hang out with them that much. And I have like my straight best friend who's like so cool, and I always use him as like an example of like what men could be.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I do talk to women and they're like, it is so bleak out there. like they are actually like, they don't have interests. They don't like, they do just go to the gym. Like there is toxic masculinity ruining these men's brains. And you're just like, that can't be real. And I feel bad talking on it because I don't have so much experience, but it is interesting being at a gym and just being like, this is looking really unhealthy for a lot of these men, I think.
Oh yeah. I think the biggest, what helped me truly understand the difference between gay toxic masculinity and straight toxic masculinity was when I kind of started looking at the difference between like the Hulk and Jekyll and Hyde, right? Because if you have horror movies that are often queer coded because of the way they're villainized, and you have superhero movies that are masculinized and very, very popular and strong. Technically, the Hulk and Jekyll and Hyde are like the same story, right? You have this science experiment gone wrong, and you can't hide the monster inside you. However, the lesson in every popular Hulk media is that like finding someone who understands you will forgive you and fix you. Like finding the woman who like sees the beauty behind the beast is like the way that everyone will accept you. Like you're not a problem. You're just
misunderstood.
Understood. Exactly. You haven't been given a fair shot. You're just trying your best, even though you knocked down a building. Like your anger inside isn't the problem; it's everybody else. And then Jekyll and Hyde is very much like, you better put that shit away, or we will burn you at the stake. And so I just think these two versions of like the masculinity inside, the thing that is bursting out, the thing that is the problem, is manifested in these different ways where one person has to take it all on like the back and just keep it inside, shove that shit down. And then the other is well, why doesn't everyone else just deal with it? Because I'm not bad.
And celebrate me.
And I think that's truly the difference, where it's like you have these two very, very similar themes. And that kind of is the crux of how I navigate noticing the difference between the two. But yeah, at the end of the day, toxic masculinity is toxic. Rough out there, guys.
For gay men, like what are some like trigger moments to know someone might be toxically masculine as a gay man?
I mean, I think it can depend on the realm, right? Like we've talked a lot about fitness and bodies,
Can I
which
tell
I
you
think
mine?
is the...
I know.
Yeah,
exactly.
I know. Like I want to know.
If a gay man doesn't have a lot of women friends, I think that's the reddest of.
That's a really good answer.
Like if
And
they
I
don't know
agree
many
with
trans
that.
women, if they don't know many women, if they just hang out with guys, I think that's it, right?
Yeah, and there's even some people in our lives or that I've met that kind of act like, oh, there's girls coming to this party, and you're like, oh, that's a really weird thing to say. Yeah. Like, for sure, I think that's probably
that's a really clear answer,
because that's more directly linked to like actually like the way you view and treat women. Yeah. Because gay men in particular can become so insular with their community and think that's. I understand what can lead to that, obviously, but we've all been through a lot of the same problems, and not all of us are like that. So it's like a good thing to catch.
I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind is just like the single red flag. Of course, there's a bunch, but that's one thing where I'm like, oh, you don't know any women, Yeah. And I think that kind of manifests in.
I think it probably also, you can see it even outside of women. It's like, what does the rest of your circle look like? Yeah. Is it actually only one kind of person who is hyper masculinized, only looks a certain way, only acts a certain way? Or are we seeing like an actual interesting mix and including more than one gender? Yeah, it is interesting because I can feel empathy. And oftentimes when you see people that you view as toxically masculine, you can actually see that they're just struggling. You know what I mean? And that it's like a we all have self-loathing and self-hatred and we all have to deal with. So I'm not just trying to be like, oh, these men are so sad. But
that's why I think this one study on the Australian gay men is so interesting, because it's like actually the men who are so overtly masculine are quote unquote struggling the most,
despite
with hating themselves.
Less.
Yeah, like which I think is like a helpful way to view it. So you don't maybe like say you're out at a bar, get so angry at the person like or whatever. You could have like a bit more empathy, which could maybe like at least create some sort of like lack of like polarization or something. Like just remembering that like an effeminate gay man might actually be is stronger in many ways than a really jacked gay man, I think is a really powerful thought for gay men to have when they're out existing.
100%. Someone
and it's true,
because that's the thing. It's like, who's a stronger individual, the person who's fitting into the mold of society that we've been told to fit into, or the person who's not doing that? Like, what's harder to live with?
Yeah, totally.
And truly, like,
and also like, and attractive too. Like that's the other thing, is like confidence is attractive, and that usually is coming off for someone who's able to stand out.
I always talk about this style, because I complain about myself all the time in that I do not have any style, and part of the reason was to look the way I do is so that I can go to any department store, buy a t-shirt and look good in it. I'm like, done. I don't have to try. But the people who can like look for clothes that they know they like, look good in, and stand out in a way that they have picked themselves, I think is the most admirable quality, because it shows how well you know yourself and it shows how well you can navigate around the world. And so when I see like attractive men in pants and a t-shirt, I'm like, good job. That's not style. That's lame. And all you did is wear the clothes that were built for you. And this applies to me 100%. But yeah, just I admire so much.
That's so
people's
interesting.
Good style.
I feel like the one thing I've done for my style is always just only shop at thrift stores now. So then it forces you to make a decision. Because a thrift store is like a place where it's not curated and like you have to think. And I find that I get the most compliments on things I've thrifted now, because you actually have to really put it on, figure out what it means for you. It's not being curated for you in like a trendy way. Really? But that's really interesting. Yeah, we just like had a friend visiting who was so jacked, and he like was running out of clothes, so we'd give him our clothes, and I was like, okay, so you look fucking great. Like it was like it was annoying. I was like, wait, that's not tight fitting, or like it was just like, oh, and it also does. It's like when you're so muscular, the style aspect of the outfit does get pulled out a little bit. Like some of the things that I thought were stylish on him would just look like, okay, you're just
like
showing off your pecs.
Shirt, like
it was interesting to see. Like I've never thought about how style versus body is like, I've never thought about that, and I'm like, I find that really interesting now, and I will be clocking it when I
think about it all the time, just because it's a huge insecurity of mine. I go to a Macy's.
Well, you're wearing a black tank top. That's the gay uniform. You're fine.
The gay uniform for basic loser gays. Yeah, thanks. Again, I don't understand why you're reading me down, so I'm not going to say I don't deserve it, but I do. I have noticed, by the way. I
think black tank tops on gay men always look good.
You love a black tank top.
I love a black tank top. I was trying to blend in.
The amount of times I have just walked into a store and picked out some stuff, walked out, and hated everything I had. Okay? I'm like, we're done with this. I metaphorically.
And the idea of a uniform is good. Like, I was forced to go to Catholic school and wore a uniform every day, but there's a benefit to being like, I don't have to overthink it. Not everyone is into fashion anyway. It's nice to have the spaces that you know you're interested in and focus on them. And if you're not into fashion, it's like, get a uniform.
And not to be like homophobic, but if there's one thing gay men can do, it's too much when it comes to fashion. So at least you're never going to go down that road. Yeah, like it's like there is definitely the other end where you're putting it all on fashion and you're just like, hey, now you have like a purse on a Labubu on a black tank top with like assless chaps or whatever the fuck. But that's cool to think about because I think that style can be really important and maybe a nice way to like not fall so into toxic masculine ideals while trying to present yourself as something.
Yeah.
Like I kind of forgot about
And the last thing I've been sort of thinking about is like, obviously there are lots of people that are super fit that are open to many different people. And I think like even someone like me can have those insecurities in myself. You just automatically assume that somebody is toxic, and the gay community has so much of that it's nice to remember, like, I don't know. You shoot your
How
shot,
often
you know
does
what I
that
mean?
happen though?
What
Like
do you
it's
mean?
like I'm not to be like just being like this hot, like physically attractive, like gay man who's just so cool. So now I feel like I just went so
again. Thank
but like
you
I'm like
so
it is
much.
I
I can't help but feel like you're calling me lame. Interesting.
No,
Either
oh my God,
either call me
fuck.
skinny right now or say I am fun to be around.
Oh my God, I was
There's-
not
wait, you work
thinking
out.
about you. I was not thinking about you. You're the ideal.
Thank you.
No, I just mean like in general. Like if I think about gay spaces, like
Yeah, but I think
I'm not stumped that often.
fine,
But
but you
maybe
don't
I
get to
am.
know people that
Yeah.
well. Like
No,
I
I'm
think
just being a
you have to
bitch,
break
yeah.
people down a little bit, and everyone
Yeah.
has their own version of insecurities. And a lot of people who aren't fit will look at someone fit and have that be
Yeah.
an insecurity for themselves as well, and never get the chance. Like looking across the room, I don't think you can know someone is super toxic and overly masculine until you actually give it a shot. And I just think like it. You know, you might be surprised sometimes, but of course,
moyo,
this
that's
problem exists.
This guy was talking about in Brazil, they say moyo, which is like sauce. Like, does the person have sauce? And that is true. Like, it is just so interesting how quickly physical appearance goes away when you start hanging out with someone, and all of a sudden it's just like all that work in the gym is pointless if you're not gonna like have the sauce, which is, at least in my experience, like it does not matter what you look like. If you have that vibe that clicks with you, like there's nothing. It just like everything, if that was physical before them, like goes away, and you're just like, oh, I'm so into this, or you're so like, that is not my sauce. And I think that's just like, it is real, but I think it's forgotten about a lot in the gay community, or I guess in any community, as we also build online profiles that are hell, like photos of ourselves. That's so scary.
Okay, I feel like that's like the gist of what I had to say about toxic masculinity. I don't know if you guys have any.
I think we
other
covered
lingering
every
thoughts.
single parameter, and
Yeah,
I think we
I
solved
think-
it.
And we're done.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
done.
literally.
Solved.
I think this is put a bow around it, put it on the internet, and no one needs to talk about this anymore.
No, I think this is definitive conversation.
Amazing. Okay, well, having said that, why don't you tell us a little bit about where people can find you, what you're up to, where you can
Yeah.
go?
What's your like main thing, Mr. Online?
Oh no, another insecurity. I do too much.
Wow.
So
oh my
you can
God.
find me on Twitch.
No.
I'm streaming my workouts 3 times a week. If I'm
Fun.
gonna stick to my schedule, it would be Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And then also I make plenty of YouTube videos about the physical working out, and then also mental space.
Yeah. I love the way you talk when you do it. Like,
And you've got your whiteboard sometimes. Like it just feel like
I
this is
love
what
a
drew us to
whiteboard.
you is
I
that
love someone
it
writing
just
something.
felt. Yeah, you're
and
like,
also
that makes it
you
legit.
don't have the like, some people are so performative online, but like you talk the way you're talking right now, which I think is very,
It's nice.
it's
To feel
something that
real.
I always can tell. I'm just like, oh, this is such a breath of fresh air. And it's nice for workout videos because most of them make me feel bad about myself or something.
Yeah,
I
or
forgive
like
you
they
for
can-
being so mean to me.
Yeah. I love your push-up one. There's one about like just doing a push-up. I do that. I do push-ups.
That's
now
the
all
thing. I
time
think a
because
lot
of
of
that.
fitness today is like, it's supposed to be catchy and interesting, but none of it's truly educational. Way where it's like,
Yeah.
but why is my question? Like,
yeah.
if I didn't know what to do, this video doesn't really help me. It just tells me there's a thing
Yeah.
I'm not doing. So
Totally. And then you get more lost.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I loved your push-up video, because I was like, wait, I can do that.
I will
Because
say,
sometimes I'm just like, the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is so complicated.
one way that's backfired on me is that I've built a little bit of a like a mentality around like not that serious, like, which is true, but also there's a part of me where I'm like, but also let's touch grass today. Let's go outside. It's not that serious, but it kind of is a little bit. Let's go. So writing that line is always really fun. But you can find me on YouTube.
But I still think that the not that serious approach, the not that serious approach is more unique and powerful, I think
I think so.
than the other one, and then just figuring out from
100%. I'm so bad at pitching myself. Yes, your friend Kevin with an underscore on Instagram,
Kevin.
but everywhere else you can there. That's the vibe. I do fitness everywhere, unfortunately, and I never stop. So you'll see it. You'll see something.
Well, thank you so much. It's been so fun to have you here. Thanks for talking about toxic masculinity
and being vulnerable. And I'm sorry I bullied you.
I
Being in
deserve
musical
it.
theater, tank
People
top
with biceps
loving.
need to be bullied a little more often. Let's be real.
It's true.
True. It is true.
Bully
And
biceps.
That is
Bully people
ultimately-
with biceps.
That on a
Actually,
bumper
that's our new series. All of our guests are just like
People with
fit
biceps
people.
and just bully them. Down.
Yeah,
You'll
you
see.
just bring
You're
them on
number
as
one.
guests to just-
Target number one.
I like that.
Sweet. Thanks so much. Everyone go check out Your Friend Kevin. And yeah, we'll see y'all next time. Thanks for
Post.
listening.